Good morning, traders. Welcome to the daily webinar. Let's start the webinar. This webinar will also be in YouTube. So to my YouTube viewers, please, if you have a minute or so, you can like the video. If you do, if you watch it and you like it, click the like. And if you want to help someone else see this content, please share it. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with a question I got on YouTube today. The guy says, Pong Yen is going up. And he's a bit worried that it's going up rather than going down, because what we are saying is that I'm looking for a sell setup in Pong Yen. So I make an assumption, and that's an assumption that he's not a wave trader, which means he doesn't understand impulses and correction. So I'm going to show him today what I mean by when I said we're looking for the sell. So I'll have to go backwards a little to show that. And I can go back as far as possible, but I'll just go where there is a nice one to show. Here's a good example. This was a sharp impulse. So when this starts to correct, if you ask me what the trade is, I would say, look for this to break down. And then it probably went up some more. And if you ask me what the trade is, I would say, look for this to break down. And then it probably went up some more. Now, from this point here, there were good flags. See these flags, those were good buying flags. You could buy them, but you would have to know what your risk is, because at any point in time, this can drop. At any point in time, it can drop. So if you have the skill level to trade in here, I doubt you would even be watching my video. You really have to be at that level of skill to trade in there. And don't lose your account, that you would hardly be even watching my videos if you reach that level. If you're watching it, it means you don't really reach that level. You can trade, I'm not saying you can't, but you have to have a really good speed level, trading it under 15 minutes. Now, in this piece, I probably wouldn't buy, but once I see this one and we're getting flags above here, yes, these might be buying, because the assumption at this point is that we're gonna get another move up and we might even tag the top. That would be the assumption. Now that it didn't tag the top and it starts to drop, your first sell would come under this one. Then you can sell that, then you can sell this, then you might even get another sell here. Basically, those are, and what you're waiting for is these sharp impulses to the downside. Not this slow movement going up and pulling back right back to your entry point 5-6 times, where you would panic and you'd be scared to death. You would close that trade for a pip or two, but 10 times before it even get to the top there. Right? Because this is the correction to this impulse. We don't normally trade the correction. We take the same money and we go and we trade something else that is making an impulse. So if you have that money that you can use to trade something that is actually in a trending mode, that are making impulses, and ignores the one that are in this. It doesn't mean we don't buy or sell anything. Instead of trying to buy this Pong Yen in a correction, all we did yesterday was sold the yen. Day before yesterday, we sold the yen, we bought the euro, we bought Aussie, we did something. We trade those that have the probability, the higher probability to move faster with an impulsive move that will give you your money the same day you close the trade and you walk away. You cannot take your money out of this trade the same day. You'll probably be waiting if you had entered a trade here, you would have to wait all of this time to get 100 pips. And that's more than, I don't know, this was on the 26th there, somewhere there. Yeah, that was in the 22nd of January. You will still be waiting to, you probably would close that trade about 10 times already. Let's be honest. If you're in a trade like that, you closed it for 2 pips once this started to pull back, because you have no idea what the chart is going to do. So what we are waiting for is a sell setup, not a buy setup. Now, it doesn't mean we don't understand what's happening in there. We actually just broke it up this morning, and we are actually waiting for a sell setup. And you can take a sell setup in here. This is where we're looking for a sell setup that is not ready as yet, right? If the structure changes, we were already looking for sell setups on this one going down when we had this flat here. And this would have been a sell. Once it goes back up, that is no longer a sell. Go back and watch my webinar starting from this date, and I'll tell you why we had an entry order for a sell here. We have an entry order here, right? We pull those entry orders here because they're not valid. I still think this is making a running flat, which means I believe this is the impulse, this is the correction. This one is going to drop to about this level, and there's a high probability of it going back and make a new high. Now, if you get a flag here, you might consider this buy. we're considering a sell from here. Why? Well, it's also possible that somewhere in here we have a contracting flat. This is the top, and this one could drop through the bottom. So now that makes for a high probability trade. So my only question is, well, what if it is the running flat? Would I be able to get out for break even? If this thing comes here, tag me, stops at this level, and then go back up, would I be able to take break even in that trade? If I have the skill level to do it, and I do, now the question is, do you have the skill level to do it? If I'm doing this in our group, we will all get out for positive, even if it goes back up. The probability of us doing that is very high, right? It's 1 in 10 or 1 in, I don't know, 20 chances we would not be able to get out for break even, and we'll take a small loss. But the higher probabilities, we'll even close it for positive if it does this, because we assume that there's a probability that that could happen, right? There's about a 10% chance that could, I would say 50% chance that could happen. There's a 50% chance it could drop. So we will take the trade, because contracting flats are not something we forecast. They're difficult to forecast. And if you try to forecast them, you will make mistakes. You would end up making too early forecasts and a contracting flat, and that will put you in trouble. So now it's either a running flat or it's dropping. Which if it's, I don't care. We take the trade and then we manage it from there. The number one thing you would learn about trading is trade management. How to manage the trades you're in, whether you're right or wrong. So to my good friend there, it's going up, I agree with you, but how is it going up? That's the important thing. It's not that it's going up. So if you're seriously and genuinely wondering why I'm not trying to buy it, this is why. If you just said it because you can write, well, then good luck to you. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for the sell, because the sell is going to give you some really sharp moves like this. Some really sharp moves like this. If it drops the drop, it's going to drop through this bottom. So you might get a few sharp moves here before you get another flag. And then if it just comes here and go back up, we will take break even, and then we would look for the sell again. Now, can this crawl its way back all the way to the top here? Absolutely. As of now, on the bigger picture, on the daily, we're expecting it to go back to the bottom. And the reason is because of this big flat that we're in. See? This one move up, this one move down, and this one move up. We're assuming that it's going to come back to this low. That's really big picture, right? That's not for you. That's just for analysis purpose. So we're assuming that because it broke the top, the probability for it to come down now is very high. If the top was not broken, then we wouldn't know whether it's going to drop now. It could also be consolidating at the top here for one more up move. It could make a consolidation in here, make another move, and still come back here. Right? It could still end up going to this level and then come back here. We're in this impulse. So there's a lot of things that could happen. But every time you break the top, we will start to make the assumption that, you know, this could be dropping now, and then we would wait for sell setups if we get them. If we don't get them, that's okay. We were already selling these. So what we're going to do from this point is wait for the sell setup. If it gives us a buy, I think that would have to be a really good buy before I take it, which means it has to make a sharp move here, make a nice flat here that will give me risk to reward, and then I'll consider that trade. What I'm most likely expecting is that if this crawls its way back up to the top here, then we're going to drop to this level, and we will definitely go up. This would become one more flat here for upside, just like this one here, right? One more for upside. And if that happens, we were trading this up because we actually thought this would come and break this top. So you see, from here, we were trading it up because we assumed that that could be all the correction, and this was going to break the top, and then we're going to come down. It didn't break the top. It could still go break the top, but now because it's making a consolidation here, it will have to come back here and then go break the top. Now, I hope that didn't confuse you. My traders literally follow every step I just said. All right, we're looking at this. Then go break the top and then fall. It is still going to come down. Maybe not this year, maybe till next year, but it's still going to come down. And the reason next year is because you're in a weekly structure that could go up for a whole year more, still not break the top of the impulse and still fall. But as long as you broke the top of the weekly impulse, the first impulse up, you will always make the assumption that it's starting to fall. We thought this was going to drop. And then it started to come down like this. It didn't mean we didn't trade it. We traded the hell out of that. And then we said, okay, this is correction. We'll make a new high and then come. If this correction will make a new high and then come, you will always make those assumptions. But here's the good thing. We are aware of the possibilities. We know all the possibilities that can happen here. And that knowledge is what you use to give you the edge in trading. Knowing something is what is important. I was giving a very simple analogy to my traders, right? When I was asking, would you trade in here? You could trade in there, but would you trade in there? Right? It's like crossing the road. You can cross on the red light, but should you cross on the red light? Right? What are the chances of you getting hit on the red light than you getting hit crossing in the green light? It's the same thing. We try to trade the impulses, so that the chances of us losing that trade in the impulse is less than you losing a trade in the correction. That's all. There is not a big thing to it. It doesn't mean you can't trade it. You can do anything you want if you have the ability and the skill level to do it. There are a lot of people who cross the road on the red. I do it often because I could make that decision rationally and say, you know what, there's no cars, go to hell, cross the road, right? But if there was a good setup here, yeah, why not buy it? There isn't any good setup in this thing. Look at that. So let's go on. I hope that answered your question. Let's move on. I'll go back to the daily webinar start. And that was an educational piece for everybody else who understand wave analysis. Let's go. So dollar index is still going down. This one is coming up very sharp. At some point, it will make a correction. When it's coming this sharp, at some point, it will make a deeper correction. We don't know where that point is. So we will keep selling every flag until the last flag is either a break even or a small loss. And then we will anticipate the deeper correction. We'll start selling again. So I think today we have a small flag in the making, not a big one. I can see the first impulse is telling me it's not a big one. This one would likely come back here, maybe go back up. There's a buy setup here if you want to get very aggressive. And then we are expecting it to sell. What if it goes up here and then start to do this? Well, once it break out of this stop and consolidator, we will start to buy. See, pretty simple. It's not that complicated as you might think, but you have to understand when you're doing it and why you're doing it. Right? So right now it's a sell setup. It's crawling up. It's a running flat in the small running flat in the middle there. We had running flats here before, but we had running flats for the downside. This is a running flat for a sell. This little one here will be a running flat for a buy. I don't know how high that is going to go. So I might not be buying it. If we're in the trading room and we want to get really aggressive, we might consider buying that. Why? Because there's a good chance it might do this and then go down, and that would be okay. That will only be less than 50% of this move. Now, there's a lot of news event today that could give you both sides trade, directions, both sides, especially when you're in a consolidation like this. So we will be trading them in our trading room all the way from 3:30 to 7. Sorry, you can't join us, right? But if you do want to join us, you know how to do that. Send me a Skype message. It's always in the description and you'll get a chance to join us. Watch for this. So this is what we expect. Come back here, go back up, and then we'll look for the sell setup. We might consider that buy. I don't think we will, but we'll take a look at it when the time comes. Silver is still consolidating. We sold it, and if you sold it in my group, you should have sold it a little higher. This was where I put it before it break the second one, before it make the second high. If you put it there, you probably close it now for break even. If you're here, once it get to break even, close it for break even, because this is going to either come here, go back up there, and then drop, right? Or probably go all the way back to the top, and then we will have something else forming here, just a bigger correction, right? So that possibility exists, which means we will exit the trade, and if you want to re-enter it, wait for the pullback, then sell, right? Let's go. Okay, there's a reason we are very cautious about selling this one, and that is because you see, even if you sold here, you would have to close it here for break even, right? And that would prevent you from getting a loss, which is there, right? It's coming back again, but now it's a bigger correction. I assume that that thing is making a bigger correction. So this down move is actually a buy setup, especially if it comes like this, then that would be a buy setup. Eventually, we might end up with a bigger flat in here, this coming back here and then go. So we will see as it develops. But this, the way this is developing, is a buy setup as of today. The only way that changes into a sell is if it drops like this, make a flag here before 4 o'clock, and then we will consider the sell. But as of now, it's consolidating slowly down, so we'll be looking for a buy setup here. At least a buy setup back into this. And because the potential is this could be a running flat, that buy would be amazing. Because if it is going to break the top and go all the way to this level, then this could be the best buy setup you'll get. We don't know if it's going to do that, but if you would take the trade, because that probability exists. Yep, this one we're still selling, regardless. You're still selling today. Well, if you get another sell setup, we'll try to get a sell setup from the top here to go with it. Let's see what we have in the 15. Not ready. Right? You can see that this is sharp, so they'll make a flat here, go back up and then drop. Go back to the 1 hour. Euro consolidating. So there's a good reason why yesterday you should have taken out your profit somewhere in here. And if you didn't, you should take it out now on from this trade. Take that profit off and wait here. We're actually making a big flat here. If you make this big flat here, that might be a sell setup we will take, right? Because we'd assume this is a small one. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. This could actually make a pretty deep correction. Even if it goes slow, we can get out and then look for the buy. So a sell setup there might be worth taking a look at today. Short term, for traders who are watching this, I'm not making any trade call. Disclaimer, these are just my views on direction that it could go based on wave analysis, short term and medium term direction. So short term direction, this would have to consolidate here and drop. It could drop just a few pips and then go back up. That would be a buy setup in the medium term. It could drop much deeper, and that means you're going to get a few more before you go up. Right, so there's a number of things that could happen because you have one sharp impulse here right now to deal with. That is this one, right? This might be a sell setup. It's not ready as a sell setup as yet, but if it goes up a little more, we'll go with it. So if this just goes up a little more here, give us this one. We will definitely be looking at that as a possible short-term sell setup. Now you have to really be careful with this because all it needs to do is drop a little here and it could go back up as a flat, and that would be a buy setup. So you will need very good skill level to get in this and get out it before it goes back up. Right, so we'll have to wait on that, but we might consider selling it today. Pang. If we get a sell setup, we'll take it. We don't have it and we don't have a buy setup either. It might consolidate here more if it consolidates in this range for a longer time. If they consolidate in here for a longer time, we'll consider the buy. That will be a buy setup. So we'll have to wait and see which one this gives up. But if we get a sell setup, which means if this comes down a little more here and make a flag, we'll definitely sell it. Aussie, it's consolidating. You would have closed your trade yesterday. We closed this one. We put the entry above the top. Now you will learn why we do that. There's a good reason. This one you should have taken profit once it pulled back the second time and don't break the top. You exit your trade. We're making a deeper correction. It's not a sell as yet. Just like the euro, we're not sure whether it's going to be a buy or sell, but it's not a sell as yet. Euro has a clear sell. This doesn't have it. So this could probably consolidate here more. And, depending on how this consolidation develops, it's either up or if they drop and make flags, then it's down. This is pretty sharp. So I'm considering a deeper correction here for more upside. New Zealand, pretty much the same thing. Yen. Okay. So we sold there, we sold here. This trade you should have closed here, right in about this level. I probably closed in the second one, not the first pullback, but the second one here. That's where you probably close the trade. Anywhere near you close it, you should close that trade and stay out of it. We're looking for a sell setup. As of now, my entry for the sell is here. Later on, I could put it at this level. So we will see how we manage this. It might correct a little deeper. I don't think it's going to be a big correction. And then if you follow what I'm saying, we're expecting it to drop and break this low, after which we're expecting it to go back up. Right? I don't know how low it will go beyond this point, but then after that, it's upside. Right? Remember when this is going up, I said the way this is structured, there's a good chance it should come back here, go back, watch the webinar at the top there, you'll see that. Right? And now that it's completing that move, all it's giving us is a good chance that once they finish this here, once they finish this, they could go and break that top. We're still expecting them to break the top. What if it's not going to go break the top? What if this is the top? That will be a contracting flat. Again, remember my words, we don't forecast contracting flats. We let them prove they're contracting flats. So you would have to look at this pattern here as a contracting flat. And that means this could literally drop through the bottom all the way back to this level. So here's the thing. Is it going to go back up from here, break the top and then come, or is it going to drop from there? I don't care. I'm selling right now. If I'm wrong about this making a flat to go back up, and it's actually completing this flat here. I'll move this out from here now, put it like this. It's actually completing this flat to drop. Hey, good for me, I'll be in the sell, right? If it's completing this flat to totally drop on the weekly, great, we're looking for the sell. We would only be cautious about the sell when we are at this level. Exactly at this level, we'll be cautious. So if it goes really strong to that, we stay with it. If it consolidates, any consolidation under this means we're going to be selling all the time. It has to stop here, reverse, make flags, and then we buy. See how easy that becomes? As one person wrote me, and thank you for that note, you make trading look easy. That's true. Not me make trading look easy. The method we're using makes trading look easy, and it's actually stressless. If you follow all the rules we have, you can trade without stress. When you understand the patterns, you take the trade. When you don't, all you do is ignore it, right? That's simple. So we understand these patterns and we're trading them. So we're looking for sells. If this is going to go back up from here to the top, great. We'll assume that this is the flat. See that? You have this sharp move down, you make 1, 2, 3, it's going to go there, it's going to come back here and still go. It still has to complete that flat, but I don't think that one is going up as yet. So at this point, I should explain to you that understanding wave analysis and how the patterns develop themselves and change is what we do. We don't determine that the chart has to do this. The chart doesn't have to make any ABC or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or WXYZ. Right? Those are labels you put on the chart to see whether it's creating that pattern. But patterns as they're forming can change. And if you're doing forecasting, you have to be flexible to understand that the pattern you looked at just now has just changed. It's like the weather. You think this is going to be a storm that is going to be turned into a hurricane, and then you look at it and say, well, no, it's not turning. They just dropped actually. So you accept that change and you said, okay, what do we do now? That's it. It's that simple. Look at it that way. Don't look at it as the way that there's a prefix pattern that has to form. There's a number of patterns that can form, and that number is huge. We know them all. We have studied all those patterns. That is why we'll say at present moment, the most common pattern that could form out of this is this coming to break the low and go back up. And this is based because on the bigger pattern, this upside is based on the bigger pattern. But it can do this and it can go back there. And then it can come back here and then it can go. This would be a pattern we know. See that? See where the complexity comes in now? For you to learn all of this stuff, you know where to learn it. That's where the difference is between what I'm showing you now and what we do in our group. So watch for that trade. CAD. I think we might consider this sell today. Finally, we're getting something that is telling us we might consider this sell today. Come back to the top there. Let's see if it goes back. We have the flat here already. We have a running flat. They broke the low. You can make an argument that they broke the low and they're going up, right? This could be the breaking of the low. I don't know whether we broke the low. We'll have to check it. But if it breaks the low, it's going to go up. If it didn't break the low, then it could still drop, right? If this doesn't break the top, it could still drop. We can put a sell setup here now. Finally, with this one, we can put a sell setup there now, because if it stays here without breaking this top, or even if it makes a bigger one here, it could still drop. So now there might be a sell setup, which means if we get that sell, we'd assume that it could come all the way to this low. Do not take out the buy entry. My traders, don't take out the buy entry. Leave it there. We'll do that after 3:30, then we'll decide which one we're keeping, the buy or the sell. But this small flag here could be a drop. And if that starts to drop, then we will anticipate that if they drop from here, they'll likely come back, break this low. Maybe even tag this low and then go. Maybe stop some here and go. That will still be the running flat. So the sell setup, and it might be now because the consolidation here is huge. Swiss, this is easy. Put the entry here. That was yesterday's trading that we put the entry there. We took it out, put the entry here. This is a sell setup and nothing else but the sell there. Europound, stay away from it. Euro Oz, it's not ready. Euro Oz is going up some more. So if we anticipate that this thing is getting really big for some weird consolidation in here, I don't think this is it, but you can look at this possibility. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That means this one is going to crawl its way back to this top, make a new high using this one, and then come down from there, right? Do you want that buy? If we're going to get this buy here to the upside, it means either euro will go up or Aussie will come down. Trade the Aussie or the euro. Ignore this for now. It's still in a consolidation. It's not the best consolidation. So trade that, and then we'll see, right? So this piece here, it looks like a running flat, and the pieces in it could give you a running flat here, actually. You look at it, right? So we can still keep this if it drops. If it does this and drop, we'll still keep that one, at least to this low, because it could be an expanding flat in that case, and then go back up. I don't like the buy setup as yet, simply because it's moving too slow. We'll buy something else. EuroCAD. If we get sell setups, we'll start to consider them, but I think it will go up some more. I think this will go up some more here. See, this is doing like this. Break the top, and then we'll look for the sell setup. Let it break the top first, then we'll look for the sell setup. Euro New Zealand. Okay, so if you took the early one, which is anywhere in here, if you took the early one, put it to break even. If you got tagged there, if you kept it over the night and got tagged there, it pulls back here, we'll close it and we'll wait for a flag, because this pulled back already. Remember, this one is actually if it's going to make a sudden up move, not if it's going up slowly. But if you got tagged, we'll close it for positive, and then we'll wait for a flag to re-enter. It's moving up slow, so they will make a flag. Right? I hope you guys pulled it over the night, but if you didn't, right? If you didn't, then this would have been a good buy, actually. This here would have been a good buy. Or this, I think there was another flag in here we showed in the trading room. And you just have to put it to break even now and keep it. But if not, let this come back here, probably do this and still go. If we get a flat here, then we will re-enter it. So you leave, take it off for the down move, and then we'll re-enter for the up move. Euro Swiss. It's consolidating, so we might get a sell setup here. So let's see if it's kind of consolidating. It'll probably be something more like this. And then we'll get a sell setup. So let's see if it stays there. If it goes higher, will be a bigger flat. So that will take a while if it goes higher. This will be a bigger flat. So the up move will take a long time. The up move is definitely not today or tomorrow. The sell could possibly be today. Euro yen. That is a break-even one. We closed it since yesterday. Take that off already. And wait some more. It's consolidating. So there will be a drop, but we're not selling it. This should drop here. Make a flat. And then go back up. So you will get this, you get a flat, you get an up move, you get a flat, you get an up move. It still looks very much corrective. Right? We will consider this buy. Once it drops, it has to drop back beyond this low. So far, it hasn't broken the top, so we'll look for a regular flat. Drop beyond the low first, and then we will look for the buy. I'll have to take this out so no one thinks that's a buy sell setup. It's not selling anymore. We don't have a sell, we don't have a buy in it. Vamos. Okay. This didn't drop, take that off. It's not valid. You're making another flat there, take this off. That one was closed already. You're not making a flat for downside, you're making a small, very small flat here for one more up. Let's see if we can consider a buy setup there. Nah, leave it alone. Let's wait for the sell. Don't, if it goes up one more, it's still within this impulse, so let it stay there. Pancad. We'll still put an entry for a sell here, but not where this entry is. We'll wait for this to finish, go up, and then we'll put the entry higher. Pancad. Okay, this went. The first one we closed. The first one was in here. We closed it there, then we put an entry at this level. Then we close that, put an entry here, then it goes up here. We put an entry above this one, you close it again, and you put an entry here. It's still valid for the upside. All right? Why? Because this can come down deeper. And if it comes deeper, then you wouldn't be in the trade. Pound Swiss. Okay, Pound Swiss is consolidating, which is good. This consolidation has a sharp move, and you're kind of doing this, so it has to come back here and go. This would be the B part. Once it come back and go, then we'll look at this pattern here for the downside. It's a sell setup. We'll try to get the sell earlier. It's not a sell as yet, but it's a sell setup. Pound yen I just explained, so we'll leave that alone. Pound New Zealand, let's go. It's a buy setup. If you bought it earlier, you close it for positive. You should close it for positive. Let's wait for a flag and then we buy. Aussie yen. Okay, we had a buy entry, but it didn't go. So let's wait and see if it's going to drop. It could still drop. This could be a running flat here. There's a possibility for this running flat. So what I would do is wait to see if we get a consolidation here. and we can go for a sell setup there. The sell setup will be one more move to the downside like this, and then probably still upside. Let's see what the bigger picture says for the upside. Yes, still upside, right? This is sharper. This one is much sharper. This one is, you see this piece here? This is mostly like that, except it's much more curved. So even if they come here, it is going to go back up to that top. So pretty much come down and then go back up to the top. So we will look for this short sell here if we get it. If they make a flag here, go for that short sell, and then we'll be looking for a buy. The entry order for the buy should stay there. Because if it doesn't make a flat, then this is no longer that running flat, and this one could take off from here, right? There are options of that running flat in there. You can use this one as well for the running flat. This is the low, and this one is going up, right? So you guys remember, we looked at all of those already, right? You can make an argument that, okay, this was the running flat, this was the low, and that is up move, right? That would be correct. If you look at it that way, that will also be correct. So, and you can look at it as this one as well. So we will make the assumption that it could be the last one, just a bigger running flat, and we will wait here for a flat to sell. We don't have a flat there as yet. See, this one is doing something like this, so it probably will come here, go back up, and then drop. If you put an entry order, keep a stop here, and we'll manage it once it dropped to go back up. So we'll put an entry order soon, not right now, but we'll put an entry order for that one, assuming that we're still making this running flat. Aussie Swiss. Stay away from this. You're getting a contracting triangle, and that means it's probably downside, or a contracting flat, and that means the bigger picture will be downside, but it will consolidate here more. Aussie CAD. Okay, if it's going up, and it's likely look like we're trying to go up, we'll have to wait until this big flat finishes what it's doing, because this thing will have to go back up here, come back down, and then go. Right, that's the pattern we look for before we buy. So we can buy short term. There's a sell setup. I don't think you want it. Trade something else, but there is a sell setup here short term in this piece that could drop one more. But this is all it could do, and then start to go back up. So if it's going to drop much more deeper to the downside, then we will sell something else with an Aussie in it. Right. So let's find another one that has that sell, or buy something with an Aussie in the back of it. It's going up, but not tradable. Right, this is going up to the top there, but that's not something you would trade. You'll just leave it alone. CAD, yeah, probably leave this alone too. We're actually coming down very, very slow here. So if you put it like this, we might be making a much bigger flat in here. Assumption is that the flat in there is becoming much bigger, and then we'll get the drop. We're in this thing, and it's not giving us any clear sense, because this is coming down slowly, so it probably could come here, go back there, and if we get that big flat, then we'll consider the drop here, maybe even just to this level to go back up. So let's wait and see which one. It's not clear. It's coming down, but it's very slow, so you can't trade it, or you shouldn't trade it. That's exactly Swiss yen. We're looking for the buy. Let's see if we're getting the setup there. It's still consolidating, which is strange. Let's wait. We're still getting, this is coming down. So we're still within the sideways range. Take this off. We're still within that big sideways range here. All right. This piece, we're still here. See that? So it's probably going to come back here. Maybe it will still go. Still looks upside. This is the impulse. So we'll just have to wait, and we'll look for a better buy from the bottom. New Zealand yen. Okay, we're still looking for the upside, because this is coming down really slow. So we'll wait. For the downside, there is not good trading. If you're trading it, you're taking break-evens. New Zealand Swiss, same thing. All the New Zealand pairs are coming down really slow. Like, look at the New Zealand Swiss, look at the New Zealand yen. Look at the, sorry, we had another New Zealand, two more New Zealand pairs that we looked at, if I can find it. They're pretty much doing, just a mess at the bottom. Let's see, New Zealand CAD. Also, it's not going up, it's coming down back. So pretty much, I guess this would be a bigger flat in the bigger picture. They could come back here, go back up to the top, and then drop. It just being a bigger sideways move before it drops. So stay away from it for now. CAD Swiss. It could come down some more. I believe this could come down some more here. probably to about this level, but we're kind of in this sideways move here, see? So they'll probably get back to the top here. Better to wait for the buy. There's a short sell setup here, but might not go very far. And let's see this. Look for the better trade setups. Okay, this one didn't go up from there, but it's coming back here and looking like it still could go up. So wait for a flag. Now that you're in this structure, you'll have to wait for them to break out of this. You'll have to wait for us to for the chart to break out of that, make a flag here, and then look for that trade out. This entry is no longer valid. It's not a small running flat. So take that out. Could it be a sell setup from that point? Could be, but I don't see the sell setup. It's pulling back really sharp here. This could have been a sell setup yesterday for that drop, but this one is not. You don't have a sell setup there. So wait for the buy. So, okay, guys, what I'm going to do, since this webinar is very long, I took a long time explaining the pound yen and a few more things. I'll close this one here and I'll do the second part. If you're a YouTube viewer and you manage to get to this level, you will see the second part with the cryptos and the stocks in about an hour or two. So keep on the watch out for it. I'll do that later. We don't want to make the webinars too long because nobody watches it. Okay, thank you very much.